the Poetry Center bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
Okay, it's a little past 1 and we're going to begin. Well, good afternoon. I'm Linda Hillringhouse, and welcome to the first, and I hope not last, Boathouse poetry reading. I really appreciate you all coming. This is, only Maria gets a crowd like this, so I'm really thrilled, right? You're getting an applause here, Maria. But before we start, there are several people I would like to acknowledge. The first is Barbara Priest, and when I call your name, just wave so we know. Barbara Priest, who's with the Conservancy, the Verona Park Conservancy, I should say, and it's because of her that this event was made possible, and even though it was conceived by someone else, but we'll get to that part in a minute. And I want to thank her personally for her wise counsel and her support throughout. Thank you, Barbara. She was great. Yay. Right.
Oh, the cookies.
And the cookie. Well, I was getting to the cookies. Absolutely. I also want to thank Frank Niccoletti. Where is he? Raise your hand, Frank. There he is. Because this was his idea, and it came about in a very strange way, and Barbara Priest is going to tell you that story. So thanks, Frank, for thinking of it. All right. And of course, I want to thank all the poets reading today. Where are you? Please tell me you're here. You're here. Okay. Yeah. Yes, thank you all for agreeing to read. I lucked out, so thank you. I want to thank Mike Solomon right here, who's the big Mike. All right, Mike. Mike is the videographer at the Poetry Center in Paterson, and he volunteered to do this today, to videotape the event. He's a professional videographer and filmmaker, and he's got business cards on the table, the books table, if you... Wonderful. Yeah, and he's wonderful. And if you need him for an event, it'll be great, I promise you.
Cookies.
The cookies. Oh, I just... No leaning on the podium, and I just did it. Okay, I should have... There's a sign here, everyone who's coming up. Okay, I want to thank Santa Segura. Santa, are you out here? I don't think she's out here. Okay, Santa, if you can hear me in there. Where? Santa, yay! Yes. Conservancy staff member whose help has been amazing, honestly. I'm totally dependent on her. And Barbara. Okay. And I want to thank Nana Kukianitsa, over there at the books table, and Mariana Ormozatse at the table. Thank you. They're staffing the books table, and they were doing the donations table. Oh, I did it again. Okay. Who has handcuffs? No, I'm kidding. Last, but definitely not least, I want to thank Marianne Cristiano Mistretta. Marianne, there she is back there. She's the reporter covering the event today from the West Orange Chronicle. Thanks. Okay. So a couple of things I got to tell you before we get going here. One is there's going to be a coffee, water, snacks, cookie break after the first 3 readers, and then after the break. Oh no, wait! You all know about the cookies. I have a note here to mention them, but you all know about them. Okay, thank you for making them, Barbara. And after the break, then the showcased readers will be 6 readers after the break, and at the end of the reading. There's going to be a very informal meet and greet with the poets. You might want to check out the books table. The poets would be more than happy to sign any books that you might purchase. Lastly, I ask you to silence your phones. And before the poets begin to read, Barbara would like to say a few words. Oh, everyone, by the way, watch the wire here.
I want to thank you all for coming. I mean, we actually had a fear that we're not going to have enough chairs, and I wasn't expecting that at all, so that's fantastic. I want to talk about how this event was born, basically, because there's someone I want to talk about that's connected to this event, although he's not here. Frank, I was out on the lake with a colleague, Karen, cleaning the lake, and we have a big raft, and we were hauling the raft up to the maintenance shed. And this guy walks up and says, "Hi, are you with the Conservancy?" And we said yes, and he said, "Why don't you have a poetry reading?" And he introduced himself. It was Frank Niccoletti. And I have to say that we don't do that. We don't sponsor events. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough people to take care of the park. It's very busy. I opened my mouth to say it, and then a lot happened in my head all at once, which I'm going to explain to you. We had someone working in the children's garden for 12 years, an older man. His name was Neil Moylan. And he was gentle, sweet. He was passionate about nature and about wildlife. He worked his butt off in the children's garden until it became too much for him, and then he worked in the gardens around here, around the Boathouse. And he was passionate about nature, and it came out of him. And people that came to the park, he was there every day. People got to know him and love him. But I didn't know something about him, and this is how I found it out. I wrote him an email one day about something, and it made him very happy. Maybe it was a project, and we had some good news about it. And he wrote me an email back, and this is what it said. "There is nowhere that is not the perfect place for something. And sometimes there's so much beauty," excuse me, I still miss him. "There's so much beauty there already that it only needs to be revealed. Like what happened to Van Gogh in a field of golden grain when suddenly arising that flight of jet black crows. So let's hear it for the swallows that in the summer feed high in the air over this lake, twittering as they go." That was an email. That was just an email. And shocked me. What the heck is this? So I found out he's also very passionate about poetry. And from that point on until he died, there were little bits of his poetry in the newsletter or on the bulletin board out there. He died, now it's almost 2 years ago, but it was about a year when Frank walked up and said, "What about a poetry reading?" And I opened my mouth to say, "I'm sorry, we don't do that." But then I said, to my own surprise, "Why not?" And that was 7 months ago, and he contacted Linda, Linda contacted me, and here we are. So this is a poetry reading for you and me. For me, it's also a goodbye gift. So, I want to open the reading by reading 6 Winter Haiku by Cornelius Moylan. So sorry. 6 Winter Haiku. I thought of closing the window against the hail. Middle of a big deal, snow appears to settle things. The spare key frozen under a stone, January moon. Winter quiet, the rustle of seeds in their packets. Mouse tracks in snow, the things I find I need. Out twice this morning, once to see the snow again. So thank you for coming, and there's going to be a bit of adjusting for our first reader, and then Linda will introduce her, and we'll get going. Thank you very much.
Maria is the founder and executive director of the Poetry Center in Paterson at Passaic County Community College. Did I say founder and executive director? Yes. The center has been a major presence in the world of poetry for 45 years. And Maria has welcomed poets from all over the world to the center. Maria Mazziotti Gillan's most recent publications include When the Stars Were Still Visible, Stephen F. Austin University Press 2021, and the poetry and photography collaboration with Mark Hillringhouse, Paterson Light and Shadow, Serving House Press 2017. She received the 2008 American Book Award for All That Lies Between Us, Guernica Editions. She's editor of the Paterson Literary Review and professor emerita of English and Creative Writing at Binghamton University, SUNY, and the author of, count them, 24 books. Stop doing that. And take it away, Maria.
I'm going to start with the poem Arturo. I told everyone your name was Arthur. Tried to turn you into the imaginary father in a three-piece suit I wanted instead of my own. I changed my name to Marie, hoping no one would notice my face with its dark Italian eyes. Arturo, I send you this message from my younger self. That fool who needed to deny the words wop, guinea, greaseball, slung like curved spears. The anguish of sandwiches made from spinach and oil, the roasted peppers on homemade bread, the rice pies of Easter. Today I watch you, clean as a cherub, ruddy face shining, closed by your growing deafness in a world where my words cannot touch you. At 80, you still worship Roosevelt and JFK. Read the newspaper carefully, know with a quick shrewdness the details of revolutions and dictators, the cause and effect of all wars, no matter how small. Only your legs betray you as you limp from pillar to pillar. Yet your convictions remain as strong now as they were at 20. For the children, you carry chocolates wrapped in gold foil and find for them always your crooked grin and a $5 bill. I smile when I think of you. Listen, America, this is my father, Arturo. I am his daughter, Maria. Do not call me Marie. This poem is called What I Can't Face About Someone I Love. That my son loves me, but prefer not to see me too much. Every Sunday night, when I call him in North Carolina, where he lives with his wife and 2 children, his hello tempered with impatience, I can hear heaviness in his voice. Our conversation stiff and stilted, though he thinks I can talk to a stone. Strangers in buses and trains tell me their life histories. Acquaintances tell me about their affairs and shattered marriages. My graduate students show me the secret undersides of their lives. My graduate students vie for my attention, want to sit next to me and carry my bags and fetch my lunch. But my son can't wait to get off the phone with me. I ask him how the kids are or specific questions about school, asks about his wife, his job. He answers 1 or 2 words. They're fine or okay or the same. My son is a lawyer. He was always brilliant with language, at least written language, and he can read a 300-page book in an hour and remember every detail. but with me he turns mute as a stump. If I ask for help with some legal problem, of course he will give it, but I do not hear in his voice the lilt I hear in my daughter's voice when I call her. Instead, I hear reluctance as his attention were focused on some really fascinating person, and he can't wait to get off the phone. I tell stories I hope will amuse him, but finally, after struggling and finding no response, I can't wait to hang up. Well, John, have a good week, I say. Give everyone a hug for me. I know my son has divorced me somewhere deep inside himself in a place he doesn't look at. I am too much for him, too loud, too dramatic, too frantic, too emotional. I laugh too much. I wear him out in a minute and a half. And if he never saw me again, he wouldn't miss me. And this is what I can't face about someone I love. Watching the pelican die. On TV, I watched the pelican with its mouth wide open, its wings and body coated with oil. Is it screaming? I do not hear the sound, and since this is a photograph, I don't know if it was caught in that mouth stretched out when it died, or it's howling in recognition that it cannot survive the thick coat of oil that bears it down. The ladies who take care of me, you when I'm gone, tell me you're having trouble. His hands, they say, his hands. When I come up home, I see that your hands have turned black at the tips and the ends of your fingers have been eaten away. I watched the dead bird in the Gulf floating on top of the water, its legs stiff and straight in the air, its body drained of all motion all night. The next day, I take you to the doctor. He tells us he will have to operate to remove the gangrenous flesh. The announcer on CNN says BP didn't want the photographer to take pictures of dying birds covered as they are with a thick slick of oil. They were hoping, he said, that the birds would sink and the evidence would be swallowed by the ocean. And late afternoon, I hear my daughter's voice. She cries out. I rush to see what's happened. You are stretched out on the bed, your body so thin, you look like a boy. You do not move. I call 911. The ambulance takes you to the hospital. BP is trying to put a cap on this oil rig. The CEO keeps saying, it's no problem. Types of oil wash ashore and float on the surface of the water. The beach is littered with dead fish and birds. At the hospital, they want to know whether we want extraordinary measures. No, I say. He has a living will. We hover around you while they admit you. Most of you lie in bed, staring into space above our heads. In my mind, I see that screaming bird, its mouth wide open, a picture of torment and despair. I reach out to hold your hand, stroke your forehead. Dennis, I call out. You do not hear me. The neurologist comes in and says, well, what did you expect? He shouldn't have been dead 5 years ago. You shouldn't have taken such good care of him. We did everything we could, the BP president says, looking directly at the camera. It's not such a calamity. We don't need to stop deep water drilling. My brother comes in and says he'll try a stronger antibiotic. It's bad, he says, but he waits until we are in the hall to tell me. The social worker tells me you should put him in a nursing home. My brother says, you kept him home all this time. If he gets a little stronger, I'll let you go home, and I'll let him go home, and he'll be around the things he knows. Another doctor comes in, says he doesn't going to make it. The social worker admonishes us with her bag of common sense. She does not love you. We take you home. I sit next to you and hold your hand. The MSNBC reporter stands on the beach in a hurricane picks up a huge drop of oil with a stick. Look, she says, look, and drips the glob of oil on the white sand. She's shaking with fury. I'm in so much pain, you say. You have not complained before. We feed you a jar of baby applesauce. You open your mouth and accept the food. When I see the pelican on TV with its mouth wide open in horror, I remember you as you lay dying. On the Gulf, the earth and the sea are being destroyed, just as you were, by this disease that you fought against for all those years. Some things are bigger than all of us. We cannot defeat them. If there is enough carelessness and greed in the world, even the ocean can be destroyed. And you, who fought against this illness with such courage, even you cannot survive. The blackened tips of your fingers, the oil heavy on the surface, on the bird's feathers, the birds dead and floating on the surface that gradually sink and disappear. And I'm going to finish with a poem about my mother. My brother called my mother the little general when we were teenagers. My brother driving the car, my mother sitting next to him, her head a small dark knob, barely reaching the top of the seat. My bossy mother who told us how to live our lives. My mother who was always moving. When I remember her, I see her almost as a blur, like the cartoon of the Roadrunners. My mother who washed all the dishes as soon as the last bite of food vanished from the plate. My mother who held my doctor brother's foot until he fell asleep when he was still a boy. My mother who sat at the kitchen table with us, always ready to hear the stories of our lives, ready to tell the story of hers. My mother who told me everything that was wrong with me. So I still hear her voice, though she said she told me for my own good. My mother who loved the feel of the earth on her hands, who smelled the flour and spices, who baked thousands of loaves of bread, cooked innumerable fragrant meals for her children and grandchildren in her basement kitchen. My mother who told me how to laugh. My mother who could not read or write, and though she wanted to go to school, my father wouldn't let her. Women don't need to go to school, she said. My mother who did not know how much money my father had in the bank and never wrote a check. My mother who wanted to learn how to do everything. My mother who could quote poems she memorized in 3rd grade in Italy before she had to leave school. Mother who drew an imaginary line around us to keep us close. The front stoop, our boundary, the family, our country. Her little sturdy body, better than any magic charm. My mother whose skin turned orange before she died. The week before she got sick, she planted a huge garden. We were sure she was too powerful to die. Ma, even 20 years after the funeral procession, led us to Calvary Cemetery and to the mausoleum drawer you found you in. I wish I could drive over to your house and find you there, your earthy humor, your warm arms that always were the place I called home.
Okay, our next poet is Joe Weil. Joe Weil is a native of Elizabeth, New Jersey, and a full professor of poetry at Binghamton University, SUNY. He's the author of 10 poetry collections, the most recent of which is Saint World, a finalist for the Patterson Book Award. Okay, Joe, don't do that.
All right. I can hear you clapping. That's what I want. I'm a ham. So I'm not even going to worry. Can you hear me back there? All right. I'm going to start with a song. I used to write off Broadway, like parodies of serious plays. And this is a snippet of one of the songs I did from Sartre's No Exit. I don't know if you know that play, but it's very gloomy. A guy's in love with a girl that's in love with a girl that's in love with, and that was my song. All right, so I'll do it. All right, I might have to dance a little. All right, I don't know. It makes me less nervous. Here we go. All right. I'm in love with a girl who's in love with a girl who's in love with me. This triangle's perverse and perhaps even worse, for the side of it don't agree. When we go out on the town and about, we are all three in great despair. For I care for the girl who cares for the one for whom I don't care. Menage a trois might be what hits the spot, but I'm only hot for the one who is hot, for the one who is hot for me and for whom I am not. That's it. Okay. Now, without Maria Gillan, I would not be alive. I would also not be up in Binghamton. I'm grateful, and at the same time, I always want to go visit her. I wish they had like one of those things on Star Trek. Beam me down to Jersey. I'm going to do this poem for Maria, because she likes this poem. That's why. And every time she asks me to do a poem, I end up not doing it. I don't mean to do that, but I usually don't have the book with me. But today I do. And I found the page even. And it's called Painting the Christmas Trees. It was my first introduction. It's what made me a labor activist. Well, actually, my father saying, "You die before you cross a picket line," made me a labor activist. But working in a Christmas tree plant with no air conditioning and where you were getting high from the fumes and they didn't. Okay, but you'll hear. I'll read the poem. Painting the Christmas trees. In my odyssey of dead-end jobs, cursed by whatever gods do not console, I end up at a place that makes fake Christmas trees. Thousands, some pink, some blue, one that revolves ever so slowly to the strains of Silent Night. Sometimes, out of sheer despair, I rev up its RPMs and send it spinning wildly into space. Dorothy Hamill disguised as a balsam fir. I run a machine that spits paint onto wire boughs. Each length of bough is a different shade, color-coded, so that America knows which end fits where. This is spray paint of which I speak. No ventilation, no safety masks. Lots of poor folk speaking various broken tongues. A guy from Poland with a ruptured disc lifting 50-pound boxes of defective parts. A Haitian so damaged by police interrogations he flinches when you raise your arm too suddenly near. And all of us hating this job, knowing it's meaningless, yet singing, cursing, telling jokes, unentitled to anything but joy. The lurid, unreasonable joy that overwhelms you even in a hole like this. It's a joy rulers mistake for proof of the human spirit. I tell you, it is Kali, the great destroyer, her voice singing amidst butchery and hate. It is Rachel, the inconsolable, weeping for her children. It goes both over and under the human spirit. It's my father crying in his sleep because he works 12-hour shifts 6 days a week and can't make rent. It's 110 degrees in the land of fake Christmas trees. It's Blanca Ramirez keeling over pregnant sans green card. It's a nation that has spiritualized shopping, not knowing how many lost to the greater good of retail. It is Martha the packer rubbing her crippled hands with Lord's water and hot chilies. It's bad pay and worse diet, and the minds of our children turned on the wheel of sorrow. No language to leach this from the blood. No words to draw it out. A fake Christmas tree spinning wildly in the brain. And who can stop it? Who? Unless grief grows a hand and writes this poem. I'm probably the only one who ever became a full professor and got unhoused in the same year. It's a long story, and I won't tell it because I keep telling it. I tell it to operators. I tell it to people that are collecting credit card things. I got my identity stolen. It's in a long story. But this is a poem for my daughter. My daughter's nonverbal, but she could imitate birds. And she used to do a perfect imitation of a mourning dove. All right, so here, mourning dove for Claire. This morning, my daughter Claire clung and wouldn't let go. Her legs wrapped around my waist and her arms pressed to my neck. I didn't mind wearing Claire. If I could wear Claire the rest of my life, well, then so be it. But we heard the bus up the hill, then saw it riding down, all yellow and black, putting forth its stop signs like some giant black-eyed Susan into which my little bee climbed and was gone. The doors closing behind her, leaving me barefoot against cold walk and colder lawn. The silence after she'd been swallowed up was filled with the warmth of her, freshly pulled for me. Still leaving an impress like a hat you continue to wear long after it's been doffed. That's when I heard them, the mourning doves, 3 perched on the telephone wires. Or are they telephone wires? Who knows anymore? One still sleeping with its tiny head drooped in its chest. The others cooed their sad lament as if to say there is no end to coming and going, and either becomes the same after you've been coming and going long enough to start to feel the death in things, not of, but in. And all the coming is going, all the going is coming, and the bus is a big black-eyed Susan, and the nape of my daughter's neck escapes a final kiss as she mounts the stairs, encouraged by the aide. Goodbye, goodbye, and hissed at the hydraulic doors. And then you're here alone, feet numb, listening to the mourning doves, those subdued and well-dressed pigeons, hunted in other parts of the country to the tune of 70 million birds. So in demand that ideal seed, their favorite, is planted for the slaughter. You wonder what's been planned for your 5-year-old daughter, who waits at the top of the stairs, and at the end, at 2, she began imitating the mourning doves that cooed outside her bedroom window at dawn and dusk. Took you a while to know she was learning their song. She mimics the mourning dove and the jay. They were the first birds of her cradle song, and now the house is empty. There's a dead chipmunk left by my cat to let me know he offers his share to the larder. The cat is better now at killing. No marks. The chipmunk's beautiful. The song of the mourning dove is inside me. The breast of my daughter is still against my chest. I almost coo. Instead, I turn the chipmunk with a hoe, toss him into the shrubbery, then dig 30-foot barrows under your house, destroy the foundations. Good for them. We deserve it. The mourning dove is not a peaceful bird. Peace is a construct. Dove has come to symbolize. It's fierce at bird feeders, a bully to sparrows. When the dove drinks, it does not lift its head, but sucks the water in like nectar, sips its own reflection. When it flees the scene, it makes a high tea kettle whistle sound with its wings. A quick flying bird. My Claire swallows deep and makes that same breathing sound. The gulping coo she's heard all her life. Nonverbal, on the spectrum. Sometimes she clings so fiercely, at others she pushes everyone away. She likes to drum with her hands on my head. I don't blame her. It's hollow and bald. Yes, it hurts. But the dove, on overcast days, in the light rain, appears to be almost the color of the rain. Not so much transparent as translucent, as the subtlest leech pussy willow gray. My daughter, too, is sometimes on the verge of disappearing. Rain child with a rain dove coo. A gray, I swear, in the bright yellow, the black-eyed Susan of my life. This grief I can bear because a long time ago I learned love does not refuse the weight that plants it deep. The weight of the snow on rods of forsythia that causes the rods to bloom. The weight of my daughter in my arms so tight against my chest, and above me the doves crying, the voice heard throughout the land.
Yep.
Next up is Mark Hillringhouse, no relation. Mark is a poet and photographer who has published in the American Review, the Paris Review, and other publications. He is a 3-time recipient of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts Fellowship and a 2-time recipient of the Allen Ginsberg Poetry Award. He's the author of Between Frames and Talking All Night, a collection of interviews he conducted with the poets of the New York School. That book is coming out next month, and it includes letters and photographs. Mark? It's like, oh, what do I do?
I'm going to bring this up. I have to, Linda made the suggestion that because of Barbara Priest, she likes my photographs. And, I met Barbara for the first time today, but I've known her through email, and I have a gallery on my website, which is Verona Park. So I've been going out for years now, at different times of the day, different seasons, taking photographs of Verona Park. So I made this print for Barbara. Where is Barbara? Oh, there you are, okay.
That's the one.
This is the one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow, that's beautiful.
I love fog, I love mist, I love, different kinds of weather. So here's a photograph. And I'll start with, the other book is the book that I was really happy to, the two of us, Maria Gillan's Patterson poems and my Patterson photographs. It was one of the best projects I've ever done, was this book, It was a really, it was amazing stuff. The poems and the photographs work so well together, so I'm very happy with that book. It's one of my favorite books. And this book, Between Frames, that's a photographic term for when you're advancing film and you're between a frame. And that's where the term comes from. But it sort of fit because I write a lot. And sometimes when I'm not doing photography, I'm doing poetry. So Between Frames. And I'll read a couple of poems from this volume. Can everyone hear me now? Back there, Joe, you can hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Hey, Joe, what was the name of that Christmas tree factory? Was that in Kearney?
No, that was down by the port in Elizabeth.
Oh, by Elizabeth.
Back when they made those old trees out of the wire, and you actually had a machine that would.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Color on it.
That's amazing. All right, thank you. This is called At the Arlington Diner, which is still there. It's actually about 5 miles from here, the Arlington Diner. The best cheesecake I've ever had is in that diner, if anyone's interested. If there is another world, you can ride there down the old county road, past the Sealed Air Corporation, or pull into Eric's Auto World and walk down to the river's edge and sit in the park on the bank where a woman's body washed up, or paddle your way with the tide around the Garfield Bend, past the Russian Cathedral, past the Teddy Bear Memorial for the niece whose uncle drowned her off the Gregory Avenue Bridge. And from there you can drift all the way out to Newark Bay, swirling a little past Belleville, going under the last iron bridge with the gatehouse attached to it, and past the cemetery, and onto the parking lot. And if you're inclined to, you can stop at the Arlington Diner for a slice of world-famous cheesecake, knowing sooner or later, even the names on the gravestones will wash away, knowing sooner or later, the iron bridges will streak with rust like iron tears, the way everything wants to tear inside and wash away into the river. and I can draw a map on how to get there, writing directions on the back of a placemat on how not to get lost, while gazing at my fogged reflection in the cold glass, as if I didn't already think of myself as a kind of ghost. And shouldn't every day be a day of trying to reach another world, of seeing the gas fires burn off in the distance over the Linden refineries? And shouldn't every day be spent wrapped in clouds, in search of cities that fade into mist? And aren't all lives strange, as I dream myself climbing some dark stairs to a room above a bar, or to be holding on to things and letting go, as if there was another world? The waitress, as she waddles by, startles me, wielding a pot of coffee, as she calls me hun, refills my cup, and slaps the bill on the counter. That's the Arlington Diner. This is just diner. I spent a lot of time at diners. Here by the cigarette machine. No, they don't even have cigarette machines, do they? Here by the cigarette machine, the coffee cup I drink from is 1950s round. Although the coffee tastes bitter to me now, and I'm moved to tears because the formica is cracked and reminds me of the blue veins running down my mother's legs. And the tin ashtrays are stacked and bent inside each other, next to ketchup bottles lined up like pints of blood. There's a universe of light in the chrome reflection off napkin dispensers, a huddled world of comfort in salt and pepper shakers, sugar slanted like beach white sand, a stainless steel milk container that is never full. Grease splatter and sizzle at 2 a.m. remind me that it is always better here behind the plate glass in the light than outside, traveling through the darkness. The waitress hits the cash register, bangs open the drawer, and wets her fingers to count out dollar bills. And I have the Bendix Diner is the photograph of that. Good old Bendix Diner. I'm going to read a couple new poems. Actually, this is the poem that won the last year's the Allen Ginsberg Poetry Award. This is called Giving Away All My Books. It's partially true. It's partially, when you get so many books, you start giving them away. All through college and grad school, and jobs in libraries and bookstores, and working for book reviews and magazines, and 35 years of teaching, and packing and unpacking all my books, and finally, at this stage, letting them go, hundreds of them. First, giving them away to students, then donating them, and finally, just leaving them in places to surprise people. I started hiding them in supermarkets. I hid a copy of Gulliver's Travels in the cereal aisle, between Count Chocula and Captain Crunch, hoping a kid would reach for the cereal and grab Swift off the shelf and say, "Mom, look." In Home Goods, I hid Allen Ginsberg's The Fall of America between the pillows and the comforters, thinking someone mindlessly strolling the aisles would reach in to grab a pillow and happen upon Ginsberg's poems and start reading. Imagine if that made that person think, or even go into a rant the way Ginsberg would, and the way I would like to rant about this country, standing in the middle of Home Goods. In a State Park men's room, I left my copy of Muldoon's selected poems on top of a vending machine. He had signed my copy, but his handwriting was so illegible, and no one could make out his name on the title page. I would love to watch to see who might go up to the vending machine, drop in some quarters, and shaking the machine because the snack got stuck, Muldoon falls on his head. And if I could, I would film all this, make a documentary of people finding books in odd places. I left a copy of Joyce's Finnegan's Wake in a bank. I left it on the counter by the withdrawal and deposit slips, hoping someone writing out a check might take it to the teller. The teller would look and say, I can't even read this book. And then at some point, after more books turn up, a reporter makes inquiries, interviews the people who found them, asking what it was like to find a copy of The Fall of America at Home Goods. I left my old copy of Wallace Stevens's selected poems at my Subaru dealer's service waiting area. I love to imagine Stevens, who never drove a car, at the service window, listening to the service manager droll on in mechanic gobbledygook, your fuel injectors need a service clean with high-pressure fuel rail cleaner. And Stevens replies, Chief Dan, if a can of Ascan and caftan of tan with henna hackles halt. In Home Depot, I wedged my large print edition of Moby Dick, over 1,000 pages, that I started back in college and never finished, between the galvanized pipe fittings in the plumbing aisle. Call me Ishmael, I thought to myself, hoping a do-it-yourselfer would yell, there she blows. On the last warm day in October, I left Tom Lux's The Cradle Place on a park bench in a secluded spot under an oak that had turned bright red, a place I go to sit when I want to be alone. I turned to the poem, Late Ambassadorial Light, and read, light reaches through a leaf, that light diminished passes through another leaf, and another down to the lawn beneath. I felt it was the right place to leave his book in the autumn sunlight with the leaves falling, knowing someone would sit there, find the book turned open to that poem, and give it a new home. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Catherine Doty, also known as Cat Doty, is the author of 2 poetry collections from Caventry Press, Wonderama, which won the 2022 Patterson Poetry Prize, and Momentum. A National Endowment of the Arts Fellow, she has received several grants and prizes and is widely published in journals and anthologies. She has long served as a teaching artist for the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation and other organizations.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
I want to thank Linda and Mark and Frank and Barbara for making this possible. This is so much fun. This is a poem for my incandescent grandma. Mischief made her lift her arms and turn with such a look of wonder on her face that I was not afraid to see the flames licking along both sleeves of her flannel robe, but stepped back, as one does from an act of God, the better to take in her glittering pale green eyes, her pirate's nose, the few yellow teeth in her little open mouth. As my mother, her own mouth open in a scream, rushed up behind her to yank off the blazing robe and dance on its burning. And Grandma, naked, jubilant, winked at me as the kettle shrieked its way to boiling dry, and gave me from some far hilltop in her far world a vision of what it was certain I'd become, wild-eyed and crazy and blazing like a 6-gun, nothing at all to be met with shame or fear. So this is for her, who now has long been ash, a chronicle, the last word of which is, oh. Thank you. And I have a little piece of paper poem. This is called Fundamental.
When Jehovah's Witnesses braved our busted door, our mother, impressed with their guts and their elegant shirtwaists, waved them into the kitchen where she had been lonely. The two women stood a little behind the man who held in his brown hands a book that looked chock full of prayers. And our mother, lonely, yes, but easily bored, lifted her eyes like a pin-curled prophet to the ring of fluorescent light that served as her halo, and asked them, as if God himself were egging her on, would they like some coffee, but instant and with canned milk. And that's when they noticed us, home from school with the mumps, squatting on the floor, an indigenous people, not of New Jersey, but of this very house. Thank you. The man with the book took one look at our snotty faces and spoke at last a prayer of healing and goodness. As the woman in the blue stripes reached in her purse and offered our mother a pack of gum, grape, the best, and 3 pieces of saltwater taffy, the long, not the round kind. When they left, which was then, we jubilated, chewing, though the sour gum set our swollen glands on fire, and we had to dance in a frenzy to not spit it out. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, come on. All right, here we are. This is called J.C. and Me in the summer of '64. It's that J.C. and this me. Okay. Catholicism and puberty duked it out the summer my body broke out of its corral and galloped Patterson streets in search of sugar through the new and luscious grasses of impure thought. The priest I confessed to dismissed me as overly scrupulous. I was thinking too much about thinking of dirty things. And distracted because the word scrupulous started with screw, I left with a head full of sin and 2 holy cards, which he passed me as if they were discards in holy strip poker, a game I imagined instructive and entertaining. The first was Saint Agatha, Sicily's virgin martyr, her eyes rolled up to God as often mine were. She would not renounce him, despite the terrible tortures he could, being God, have simply plucked her from. If it were me, I'd have just said, Jesus who? Then cantered right out of there with my virgin self and ducked behind the bleachers at Hinchcliffe Stadium. The second holy card was Jesus himself, bathed in a golden light and softly smiling, halo tipped back and eyes beaming mercy and mirth. I hadn't noticed till then how handsome he was. Eyes like blue poppies, a nose I regarded with envy, wavy auburn hair with a center part. I pictured the halls of St. Ag's full of boys in caftans, and me with my black hair tossing in the hot pink short shorts that got me suspended from school. Imagine, I thought, when he too was confused and changing, not quite a man yet, and almost, but not quite, God. Hear me calling his name, though he's already heading towards me, the August wind blowing his robe between his legs, the power to miracle lighting his holy face, a gingery fuzz on his lip, and an eager smile telling me I have powers too. At my nearness, his thoughts will cleave the Patterson Falls, send beer cans and tires jouncing down McBride, and cause the all-the-way hot dogs at Libby's lunch to vault like angels from their very secret sauce. My little one, my last one. This is called Like the Wind. At 10, I was peripatetic and in flames, and never walked if I could flat out gallop, even to school, covering 7 blazing blocks with a book bag, swinging in first one hand, then the other, a bit of ballast stuffed with unsigned pages, with stolen comic books and knotted rosaries. Ursa Major held his spot above me, invisible in the yellow morning sky, and the spank of my saddle shoes on the bluestone and concrete, and me bursting by in a blur of gray plaid and sharp elbows, made people scream and leap up on their porches. But I was on fire inside, and so pleased to be mammal. I traveled like panic. I took the weather with me. Thank you.
Our next reader is Arthur Russell. Arthur Russell is the winner most recently. Arthur? Oh, there you are there. Okay. Is the winner most recently of the 2024 Rattle Poetry Prize, the 2023 Rattle Chapbook Prize, and the 2023 Fractured Lit Flash Fiction Prize. His poem, After Midnight, was longlisted for the Palette Poetry, Love, and Eros Prize. He lives in Nutley, New Jersey, where he practices law.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike, for the mic. Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Maria, and thank you, Frank Niccoletti, for having the great idea in the first place. It's a pleasure to be here with poets, most of whom I know and admire, and the ones I don't know I hope to admire soon. So all of the 3 things, this is the book that won the prize for the Chapbook Prize in 2023. It'll be over there. This is the poem that won the Rattle Prize last year. And then, so I'm going to read one poem that's in the nature of a love poem, and another poem that's in the nature of I don't fit it all into society poem, and don't know who I am. And if there's time, I'll read After Midnight. This is called Among Other Things. I bought her 2 pairs of wide-legged jeans at Target last week. For the longest time, like a year, I'd ask random women on elevators where they got their wide-legged jeans and report back to her. It's a great look, I'd say. You'd look great in them. And she'd say, I'd have something like that. And I'd say, no, you don't. And it would go on like that, with no wide-legged jeans in her closet. So we're in Target last week, picking out Legos for her grandson. And there they are, wide-legged jeans, dozens of them, racks and racks in black and creamy white and olive drab. She couldn't escape. I stood outside the changing room while she tried them. I hadn't done that since my daughter and I on Saturdays at the mall shopped at Madewell. And while I waited outside the heavy curtained dressing booths, I'd watch the young store clerks refolding clothes that had been tried and rejected. I loved to watch them fold sweaters, jeans, anything really. They were so bored, so deft, with plain, unconscious competence in their soft fingers smoothing the fabric ahead of the fold. And there, at Target, as I waited outside the dressing room, I watched another sort of my age guy leaning with his elbows on his shopping cart handle, clicking his phone till his wife came out. And a young woman stuck her head out of one of the doors and called to her mom to come see, but her mom didn't hear. So I turned to the mom and I said, Mom, she needs you. I like stuff like that, where I fit into life. Then my gal emerged in white socks, holding up the tail of her blue chambray shirt, exposing the waist of those creamy white pants. And yesterday, I picked her up to go to my sister's house for dinner, and she's walking down the driveway towards my truck, wearing those wide-legged jeans and a black tee and her white hair all scrunched into waves like she likes it. She knows she looks good, and she wants me to see. So she holds her arms out like a wine bottle opener and then lowers them slowly, which draws my heart right out of my chest. But the weird part, and this is the part I'm reluctant to tell, is how in my life, which has been going on for a while, when one of these moments where something I've wanted but thought wouldn't happen occurs, like these wide-legged jeans, or meeting my gal in the first place, when happiness is like a brand new shirt, my mind calls out the name of my first friend, Andy, who withdrew very early from life. How this happiness makes you think about that other happiness you had. And it's not like I see his face. It's just his name anymore, Andy, that comes to mind. Like kissing the spine of a prayer book and reaching out to touch the passing Torah. You okay, baby? Need some water?
I'm interrupting. I'm very sorry.
It was for you, baby, so don't be sorry. And this is the misanthropic poem. It's called Said the Needle to the Haystack, This is Home. I feel nothing for others. It's only me, over and over, that tricks my heart and the hairs on my neck to rise to my defense. My mouth each morning smelling more like grandfather breath. Let me stop for a second. There's a word that comes later in the poem. It's shehechianu. It's a Hebrew word, and the shehechianu prayer is a prayer rejoicing for the coming of a season. Said the needle to the haystack, this is home. I feel nothing for others. It's only me, over and over, that tricks my heart and the hairs on the back of my neck to rise to my defense. My mouth each morning smelling more like grandfather breath, eating like a bulldozer, crying like a rusted hinge. And not much has changed since my earliest belief that I was the only truly living thing. And all the rest besides were robots arranged to benefit my progress. Progress with no prime mover or certified purpose, protected by subtle machinery, swollen with certainty, proud as a penis, petulant as any prince regent waiting for his regency to end. And when they were cruel, these robots, when they forced me through some maze or fuse, or locked me in my walnut brain pan to teach me to count, or burned my neck with their eyes, or shamed me with reluctant belts, or dipped me by the ankle in the vulnerable stream, I was good. I walked to school. I blew my trumpet in the trumpet section. I shot free throws in the driveway, pounded my head on my pillow to sleep. I let the great Sawyer strip my bark and saw me into planks for siding, and learned the grueling business of the astronauts, having only hatches for companions, hatches and hasps and padlocks and airlocks and latches and passwords and buttons and zippers. And I sang Shehechianu, the Hebrew praises of the season, for everything that closes with a clasp. Said the needle to the haystack, this is home. Said the haystack to the needle, "You alone?" The needle said, "I pull the thread by which the world is held." The hay replied, "Well, come inside. We'll hide you from yourself." And thank you. And this poem, it's about a 1-minute poem. It's a sonnet, a Petrarchan sonnet. And I'm reading it because Mary Ann, our journalist who's here today to cover this event, was talking to me on the phone the other day, and I told her that I learned how to write sonnets when I was in high school, and I've been writing poems ever since. And this poem is a love poem, but it's that unusual kind of love poem that's partly seduction. I think it was Chris Christopherson who had a song that went, "Take the ribbon from your hair, shake it down and let it fall." Bob Dylan had a song, "Shut the light, shut the door, you don't have to worry anymore, I'll be your baby tonight." And Boz Scaggs had the one that went, "Close the window, calm the light, it'll be all right, no need to bother now, let it out, let it all begin. Learn how to pretend." Anyway, I had none of those in mind when I wrote that, but it's the same kind of poem. It's called After Midnight. The bell will lose her tongue, the pump his prime. As evening takes the rugged night in trade, resist returning to the bed unmade. We ruin something when we ruin time. Come home with me and plant your seeds of crime. Come through my door and bring your masquerade. The night is nearly done, and I'm afraid. Come, walk your fingers up my ribs. Come, climb the unfamiliar rungs that trust forbids. The steeple to its point above the choir. The stairs up to my bedroom. Close the drapes. Lie down, lie down. The dawn is only fire. Come, close your eyes. We'll give the light our lids, while here behind them we become our shapes. Thank you all.
Our next reader is Susan Lembo Balik. Susan is the director of cultural affairs and an adjunct professor at Passaic County Community College. Her poetry collections include Broken Symmetry and Sinatra, the Jeeperettes, and Me, both published by Garden Oak Press. She lives with her husband and a menagerie of farm and rescue animals in West Milford Township, New Jersey. Susan?
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Frank, and thank you for everyone who had anything to do with this delightful day. The poetry is exquisite so far, and the scenery is just amazing. I'm going to start with a poem called Stony Point, New York. You don't drive far, mostly around town to the Food Basics or Flaming Grill. We don't worry about you. No, it's your way of flexing your independence, which doesn't wane as you age. At 96, you're as independent and stubborn as ever. Taking away the keys is something we think about, but aren't ready to do. Besides that, you're always home before dark. But it's dusk on this August day, and you're not home yet. Dan drives around town. We search your house for clues, file a missing persons report. Shortly after, the police call to say you've been seen in Fort Lee, a town over a half hour away. On your table in the classifieds is a phone number matching one on your caller ID. Lawnmower, $20, doesn't work, for parts only. For an obsessive junker like you, the ad might as well have read, "This is for you, Pat Lembo. Come and get it." We don't sleep that night. Early the next morning, a friend tells me to visualize a happy ending. Me hugging you, me thanking the cop. I put down the phone, push down my fear, and do what she said. A half hour later, Dan calls to say they found you in Stony Point. Turns out you never did find that broken down lawnmower. You show a Fort Lee cop the address, get a flat, call your service to get the tire changed, get turned around, drive up the Palisades Parkway in the dark, mistake a cart path for a road, drive onto a golf course. Driving all that way from North Jersey, we suspect the spare sparks on the grass and catches fire. You get out just in time to watch your black town car burst into flames. Then you wander for a while and sleep on the ground in the summer dark. In the police station, I see you wrapped in a drab olive blanket, a cup of coffee in your hand. I hug you hard. Like in my vision, I thank the Irish officer who took care of you after the greenskeeper found you near the 13th hole at 6 a.m. Hours after neighbors called to say they'd heard an explosion. You lived on a golf course when you were 16, caddied in exchange for rent, liked to brag about your favorite cousin Yazzo, the golf pro who taught the generals and never saw a day of combat. You played golf into your 80s on weekends, vacations, before holiday dinners. When you disappeared, I called the hospitals, but I should have checked the golf courses. Too bad I didn't have my clubs with me, you joke on the way home, adding, you should have seen those flames. Sitting next to you in the back seat, I am dumbstruck by your courage and resilience, taking in your long gray beard, wide, wild and rebellious, like the adventure you've just been on. And he was still looking for another car after that. We had to put the kibosh on that one. That was like, we had to be very artful. She's her own bird. Our 8-month-old hen, Sunny, is depressed. If we let her, she'd spend the day inside the coop in a dark corner. My husband, the chicken whisperer, says now that the days are shorter, the air cooler, she might be confused about egg laying shutting down so soon after starting up. Or maybe her hormones are off, the hormones that had her doing a mating dance with the rooster we got over the summer. Or maybe she is lovesick. After all, he did flirt with some of the older hens, Susanna, Henrietta, Marmalade. Or maybe she has PTSD, having witnessed 3 of her young flock mates murdered by an evil raccoon, the other 2 in tragic accidents. We try to be her flock, but when we grab her to go for a walk in the woods, she threatens to peck us, cackling like an old Italian woman. Don't touch me. She's her own bird, a silky bantam with golden, fluffy plumage, big feet, patches of teal on her cheeks, and a Bay City Rollers hairdo falling into her eyes. She's more like a mini Big Bird or an LA glamour girl sunning herself by the pool in sunglasses and a bikini than the fat white or speckled chicks trading gossip on a Midwestern farm. Lately, we see her leaving the coop more often, sprinting down the ramp, squawking, wings flapping, I'm here, even mingling sometimes with the young flock and her heartthrob. When one of the older ladies picks on Sunny, he defends her. Maybe Sunny won't be alone after all. Maybe she'll make friends with Millie or Ginny, or maybe, just maybe, in the spring, a barnyard romance. I want to say, I found Nirvana in Newfoundland, where one side is watershed, the other acres of stables, fields, and state forests, a place where my horse's friends live, where still he looks for them over the fence, pines for his herd, a place where a farmhouse sits, naked in its simplicity, weathered like an old man who wears the sun and wind in the deep crevices of his face, a place where the woods wrap around me like my favorite shawl, where I can feel the vibration of a woodpecker, glimpse a groundhog as he appears, disappears, appears from his hole, a tortured game of hide and seek for my Jack Russell, a place where the black bear lumbers sometimes, claiming rightful ownership of the lane, where the wood posts on the front porch are rotting out, one entire post missing, utterly beautiful in its broken symmetry. Thank you so much.
Our next reader is Kenneth Ronkowitz. Kenneth Ronkowitz's poetry and fiction are anthologized in A Constellation of Kisses, The Paradel, The Practicing Poet, The Crafty Poet, and appear in literary journals including Tiferet, English Journal, the Writer's Almanac, and Northwest Review. He has 4 Pushcart Prize nominations and is the founding editor of Poets Online, a monthly online poetry magazine.
No introductions. New and selected. Of course, once they were all new, and I love them as we love new things, fresh, full of hope, fragrant, not even dry, I would set them aside, read them aloud to myself, to others, let the paper age, the ink fade. Like people I have met, a few stay close and familiar, others more like acquaintances, some seem like strangers. When I see them again, I cannot insert them into a time, a place, a situation. And they have all been selected, sorted into piles, short and long, by themes, by periods, loved, beloved, in need of repair, worn, outdated, placed in binders, shelved in piles, pressed down to the bottom strata, or miraculously to the top of someone's mountain. New and selected. You cannot own a title, so many will use it. As an alternative, you might choose once new, now selected, or what remains, or poems I can still read without wincing. So many fish in this little pond that want to be caught, young ones touching the surface while the older and wiser ones stay deep below, waiting. Kissing. Any kisses from the first 5 years are forgotten, and the ones from relatives, forgettable. Many kisses from my mother, none from my father. And that first one from Bonnie, under a dining room table at a birthday party, her chocolate tongue was sweet, but we were hiding, embarrassed. Kissing was something we weren't supposed to do, but it wasn't the attraction of the forbidden that put our lips together. And when tongues met, it just seemed right. Then we felt some shame, and as the birthday girl opened her presents, we didn't look at each other as if we had opened some gift that was not ours to open. Who shows up at my poetry reading? A guy I went to college with who lives in town and introduced himself before the reading with, "I guess you're still writing that poetry stuff." A few of those people who spend some of every day wandering around a library or a bookstore, but they never read, never buy, or even borrow books. That person who has been stalking me online. Someone from the staff who just came in for the refreshments but feels uncomfortable about walking out until I finish this poem. A woman who has been on her phone the entire time I've been reading, but took a photo of me. Other poets who are not really listening to me read because they're getting ready for the reading that they're going to give after I finish. The woman who invited me and mispronounced my name in her introduction. Someone with a young child, which made me decide not to read one of the poems I had marked. 2 friends who do not really like poetry but want to be supportive and say at the end, "So this is what you do." And you, who is listening intently and wants to say something afterwards about one poem that I read that seems so much like your own life that you wonder if we have ever met before. Today he is on my roster and she is in my classroom. She told me last week that an oyster can change its gender. She read about it. Oysters are born male, but may change into a female after 1 or 2 years. After releasing her eggs, the female oyster may turn male again in less than a month. We know them for their pearls, rare and valued for their iridescence. They are created in defense because of some invader. Some minute aggressor is covered with nacre for years and years, layer upon layer, until the trespasser is so covered that it is transformed into beauty. Today, I gave Chris the shell of a window pane oyster, not known for its small pearls, but for its translucent cover, used for thousands of years decoratively as a glass substitute. This shell, this capice, a small translucence, a piece of an unlit chandelier to protect the fleshy folds that glow inside, a mantle, a cloak that forms to face the world. One last one. 57 Chevy. In our 57 Chevy, coming home late at night, I would curl up on the floor, pillowing my head on that hill that was the drive shaft to the rear wheels. Their turning hummed in my ears. Heat from the exhaust system warmed the floor beneath me. Not even a thought of seatbelts. The great wall of my parents on the front bench seat protected me. My father had just had that car repainted a robin's egg blue and reupholstered to celebrate its 8th birthday. It was the year he got sick. The car would sit for 6 years in our garage as he moved in and out of beds at home and away. He would not let us sell the car, determined he would one day drive again. Some days he could start the engine. Later, he would ask me to start it, and I was a glad 14-year-old who drove to the sidewalk and back up the driveway and into the garage. When he was gone, I sold the car. My mother could not understand my eagerness to do so, my willingness to take so little money to have it taken away. She could not understand how it could have meant so little to me. Thank you.
Okay. The next reader is our next to last reader, and it's Frank Niccoletti. Frank's work has appeared in the Patterson Literary Review, Lips, To Ferret, New Jersey Bards, and other publications, many of which have featured his cover art. He is a recipient of the New Jersey Writers Conference Poetry Award. Frank is a retired teacher of English and art and a previous director of English Arts and Humanities in the Riverdale Regional School System in Bergen County, New Jersey. Thanks, Frank.
This poem is my response to a prompt that Maria offered in the great series Poetry for Mature Adults. And she requested, at least old, and she requested that I read it today. And when she did so, I thought I'd better find it and work on it. And work on it I have done right up until the moment when I stepped up here. It's called What Happened in Our House. Its epigraph is, There is no shame that we cannot share. By Maria, to whom I dedicate this poem. 1. Ever the nonplussed and distant doctor, attentive to everyone's children but his own. Our pediatrician's father paid little attention to the daily needs that we wore home. Badges of our misadventures, the bloodied knees, or the souls of kids leaking blood through sticky rubber holes, punched by nails prickling the upturned wharf boards that formed the gaping footbridge we scaled to cross the moat to a tiny island where we carried on internecine warfare. My sister Gloria, the princess, I, the warrior prince, who must pry her from the reigning king, a make-believe father for the day, a burly boy named Smitty. 2. Your father is busy with patients, the nurse secretary said, and must he remind you, let it bleed before you dare worry it with your dirty fingers. Otherwise, you'll infect it. Let it ooze a little. He also says, and here she must have held up the phone to him, don't call again. Amuse yourselves until I get home. And so, sneakers still on, we did amuse ourselves until he got home, right up to the minute that he got home. 3. But some wounds don't bleed clean. They stay raw, I say to Gloria, my sister. She says, why even go there? You, with your finger poised, your pen on paper, must you dredge up everything? She's so much like our father, and not surprisingly, she too, a doctor, but a podiatrist. Yet she's never counseled not to worry it. All these years, the wound we did not bring into this world, the wound that can't close on its own. Way to go. Thank you.
Our last poet is Linda Hillringhouse. Linda is first place winner of the Allen Ginsberg Poetry Award and a second place winner of Nimrod's Pablo Neruda Prize for Poetry. Her book of poetry, The Things I Didn't Know to Wish For, was published by New York Quarterly Press in 2020 and shortlisted for the Eric Hoffer Book Award Grand Prize. Linda.
New dress. You know what? Let me just. I'm going to tell you something even I don't know, and I don't know how I'll find it, but I'm going somewhere down into something, looking for that thing that I will finally tell you, and a girl appears walking her way back to the living room in which she will wait for her parents to come back from their first trip. She's wearing the dress, the heart-stopping, paralyzingly beautiful dress that Lenore, the neighbor, has bought her. Red plaid, big crinoline, and best of all, suspended from the belt, a real plastic pocket watch, forever displaying 7 o'clock. She is aglow, for when they behold her, they will run to her, kiss her, lift her aloft, and she will see herself in their eyes and grow into someone alive in the miracle of the world who will take root joyously and in sorrow. She stands, arms outstretched like a supplicant or little model, and they are walking through the door, and her father picks her up, but unbelievably, her mother walks by, smiling, in the full beauty of her days, at the neighbor, and past the dress like no other, and the thing that was known and not known became flesh. And I'm finally telling you that right there in Lenore's living room, time stopped and the future turned to dust. Thank you. Thank you. The pool. For the Montclair girls, Maureen, Barbara, and Linda, and for the Clifton girls, Cheryl and Jackie. I would walk the sparkling asphalt road past the reservoir and split levels to meet my friends at Mary's, the tiny corner gas station and convenience store stocked with everything we needed. Twinkies, Wonder Bread, bologna, Yoo-hoo, the chocolate drink with no chocolate in it. And we'd sit out back under the only old trees left in the neighborhood to eat our toxic lunches and laugh about some dare I had just taken, using a made-up language on Mary, or making a cross-eyed drool face at her son who pumped gas out front. Then we'd cross the street and parade through the lobby of the Montclair Beach Club like Lolitas in training, and head up to the deck away from our canasta-crazed mothers to read passages from Marjorie Morningstar or to savage some stuck-up girl whose only crime was dating a lifeguard. We held forth on breasts, who had them, who didn't, how mine grew while staying with my Aunt Lee in Sheepshead Bay, and how a trip to Brooklyn could be finessed. We worked our tans with giant reflectors, holding them in front of our faces like holy books as we broke down the news, who got caught smoking, got a hickey or horrible haircut, who had cramps, who was doing it, and how you could tell from the way they walked. Sometimes we troop down from the deck to the pool and pray for the courage and greatness to jump off the high dive and survive the silent near-death trip to the surface, to burst through the water in triumph, to feel the worshipful eyes of the world upon us and stand dripping on the cerulean cement, faces flawless in the sun, removing our nose clips and earplugs with the aplomb of Olympians, and inspect ourselves for a stray pubic hair or a partially exposed nipple, either of which would mean death by embarrassment. Then we strut over to the snack bar in our bathing suits to look for boys, order Cokes and fries, and dance under the blue awning to the fabulous girl groups who taught us what to long for. And when the sun began to go down, our mothers called to us to go get changed. My mother and I would drive home silently. I dissolved into her disinterest until the next day when I walked down to Mary's to meet my friends under the trees, and I re-entered my body as they waved and shouted out my name. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, the last one. The Essex Mill, Patterson, for Mark. We finally met at the Roma Club on Chianchi Street when Angelo was king of the espresso machine and the soccer trophies stood like centurions among the philodendra, and across the street, the blue metallic door of the laundromat looked soldered shut. You lived around the corner at the mill, the artist housing, when we sat in your loft among the piles of books, and out in the back, the ruins of the Colt Mill and the Allied textile plant amid the weeds and bricks and old boards with nails so big we could see them from the third floor. And scattered everywhere, curls of corroded metal, rocks, branches, and bottle shards, as if they'd been flung to the ground by a petulant god trying to unbuild a world. I had never looked into someone's eyes without seeing a diminished self. Didn't see that coming. But that night in the loft, the doorknobs gold as the sun went down, we looked at each other beyond the broken things. And afterwards, we walked up the hill to the Great Falls, past the hydroelectric plant, its turbines twirling like prima ballerinas, and past the gorgeous concrete steps leading down to the river. When we stood on the bridge and could see the falls, they rushed forth over the cliff as if the earth had just begun. Thank you. Thank you.